Well, hey, David Nuno here. We call this TexAgs Rewind, sitting very awkwardly. Apologize, I'll fix it. It's for TexAgs Radio, but it's the TexAgs Rewind, and it's presented to you by T-Mobile. Visit T-Mobile.com/across America to learn how you get more value and coverage through T-Mobile. So on the show today, we talked about teams taking a step back next year. We got a couple on that list. We went around college football with our buddy Aaron Torres of Fox Sports Radio and Aaron Torres Online. We did recruiting country, and this was a long, extended version of recruiting country because we had Brauny on, we had Donnie Baggs on to talk about Damien Sanford. We also talked some baseball with Brauny, so it was a longer one, the baseball transfers and the way the season went. You'll love it. It is TexAgs Rewind. Check it out. What teams in college football, or what team, or teams, plural, are going to take a step back in 2022? If you look at, I have a few names on my list, OB.
Okay.
I've got, how many? I think I got two that I came up with, but there's certainly more of teams that in the SEC that are going to take a step back.
We're going to just.
But no, we can do all of college football. Just mine just so happen to be SEC teams that I see taking a step back. You can see Michigan obviously taking a step back. They haven't been where they were last year. Will they be able to keep that up? You could say maybe Michigan State takes a step back. There's other teams out there. But I got a few names for you, SEC related, but I'd love to hear if you got any thoughts on this.
Well, Cincinnati comes to mind right away.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Great one.
From 13-1 to, who knows what they're going to be.
They lose their quarterback. They lose, I think, two of their top defenders. I mean, they lost some people.
Yeah, I'm trying to remind myself of some of these teams. Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard for all these years how good Ian Book was at quarterback. Who was their quarterback last year? Was it still Book? Was he still around?
No, it wasn't Book.
Who was their quarterback last year? See, I can't even remember.
I can't remember the name either. But I think it was his first year starting.
Yeah, I know they went 11-2.
Jack Cohn.
That's right. He was, and he's not there anymore.
Right.
I think he was a grad transfer from Wisconsin.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe they have somebody better. But,
Tyler Buckner's the name that's, and he actually played quite a bit last year. He would come in running situations.
So, Wake Forest was really good last year. I doubt they had a good record. Pitt had a good record. I doubt especially Pitt without Kenny Pickett, who did so much for them.
Yeah, they got to take a step back.
I think they will. In the SEC, the teams I think will take a step back is I think Arkansas will take a step back.
That's the name I have on mine.
And I think, they were only 7. I think Kentucky's going to take a step back.
That's it's not on my list, but I think they could take a step back as well, especially since they're not how many wins did they have last year? 10?
They were 10-3 last year.
10-3, right? I don't see them as being that consistent 10-win team.
They had a really good offensive line last year, and they've lost some really good players off that offensive line, as well as their receiver Wandale Robinson, who was really good.
Yeah.
So their running back Chris Rodriguez has been in some off-field trouble this year. I'm sure that'll be all taken care of by the time it comes time to play. But again, is he going to be as effective? He's good. Is he going to be as effective behind a rebuilt offensive line? I'd be.
AT, I think Nebraska is going to be a little bit better this year, and they have to be better. They found creative ways to lose games last year. You went into a tweet, and I'm just going to kind of go through it for our audience, just so they know. Nebraska last year outrushed, outpassed, outscored its opposition the entire season, yet they were 3-9.
I'm getting sick just thinking about it. Oh my goodness. No. So listen, it was one of the most fascinating things that I've seen. And I know, during the season, you're on the road, you're in the press box, but I was watching all these games either in the Fox Sports Radio studios or at home prepping for my show. And it was unbelievable. I mean, every single game came down to the wire. I mean, they play Oklahoma at Oklahoma. They lose by a touchdown. They're leading Michigan State, who obviously went 11-2 in the final minutes, give up a punt return to tie the game, lose in overtime. They lose by 3 to Michigan, who makes the playoff. I've talked to people that really you could make the argument. I don't even think you make the argument they were probably one of the 25 best teams in the country. But like you said, and that was not a Freudian slip. They were maybe one of the 25 best teams, but they just couldn't close out games. And so, I thought it was really interesting what Trev Alberts, their AD, did late last year, which was rather than just fire Scott Frost, rather than do what everybody else would do. And I know part of it was that he's a native son and that, they want it to work for him, but they were so close. I mean, they were driving against Ohio State to take a lead late. Turnover on downs, Ohio State scores to put the game away. I thought it was really interesting. You give him another offseason, you have him shake up the staff, and you find out for sure if this is the guy. If you go 4-8 again this year, then he's definitely not, and you move on and you hope the next guy is. But they gave him, one more year. His buyout, interestingly, goes down on October 1st, so he doesn't have all. We're going to find out quick. And they're one of these teams, they hit the portal really hard. They revamped their coaching staff. And I'll say this too, they have a very advantageous schedule in the Big Ten. We talk in the SEC about crossover games all the time. They're a team in the Big Ten. They don't play Ohio State. They don't play Michigan State. They don't play Penn State. So you got to find a way to 6 wins. You got to find a way to a bowl game, and you got to find a way to build momentum. And by the way, I think they should be better than 6-6, but I think 6-6 has to be the baseline. Oh, by the way, they play in week 0 against Northwestern over in Ireland. So we'll learn pretty quick if things have actually changed or if it's much the same.
The state of A&M recruiting, people reacting more to what others are doing than necessarily what A&M is doing, but they also haven't done much recently, but they had a big one this week.
Yeah, Damien Sanford jumping in the boat, I think, was a really important get if you ask Tyler Santucci, DJ Durkin, and Jimbo Fisher. When you look at what he's done since the summer started and how he came in to camps across the region, and everywhere he went, he was getting offered. Like, as soon as he was done camping, he was getting offered by LSU, by A&M, by Ole Miss, by Texas. Like, so all these schools, Florida State, they see 6'2", 210 pounds. He ran right at 4.5, around 4.5. So he ran some sub 4.5, and then he ran some just above 4.5. So, about a 4.5 in the 40 everywhere he was going at 6'2", 210 pounds. Then he vertical leaps 39 inches. Then he broad jumps 8.5 inches. Like, all these numbers are – somebody actually tweeted it at me, and I wish I could give them credit. I'd have to go back and look through my mentions, but it was – those numbers were, like, scary comparable to Buddy Johnson when he came out of A&M heading to the NFL draft. Right. And so Damien's coming in with those numbers. He'll be obviously lighter than Buddy was. And they're built way different. Buddy was more of a stocky, inside linebacker, like a prototypical inside linebacker look. Damien's a lot longer and more rangy. And his rise through the recruiting rankings is going to mimic Martrell Harris. Like, the athletic gifts and traits are very, very similar to Martrell. And we all saw kind of how coveted Martrell was. A&M stayed on him early. Remember, Martrell had all those injuries, and A&M never wavered, and that he was a guy they wanted. And then late, a lot of schools started to come in and try to get into his ear about flipping late, and he stuck with the Aggies. So, really important get at a position of need. And A&M certainly, not going to slow down recruiting guys like Anthony Hill and Darian Gillette at linebacker as well. So, but, to go to your point about people worrying about other schools, I think it has a lot to do with just – there's a lot of familiar names falling off the board, and A&M fans shouldn't confuse familiar names with guys that A&M's really going after. Texas has been on a good run. The one guy that they got here since Arch Manning committed, where you're going, okay, that's a really, really good player, and somebody I think A&M would have taken is the safety out of New Iberia, Derrick Williams, and he's one of the top players in Louisiana. Some services have him as a 5-star. Really, that's a really good get. That's a really good player, and it's probably direct domino falling off of the Arch Manning commitment. But a lot of the other ones, I would say, are guys that A&M really didn't make a huge push for, and A&M really wasn't worried about them falling, those dominoes falling the other way. Now, Tony Mitchell to Alabama, you're going, okay, that was a guy that you had at the top of your board and you felt pretty good about. He pulls the trigger and picks Nick Saban kind of out of the blue. Reuben Owens going to Louisville, that's kind of an out of the blue thing, and we'll see if that one's done. I also don't think they're done on Tony Mitchell at all. I think that I could definitely see him coming back to campus, perhaps even for the pool party. Both of those guys I could see at the pool party. You get left out of Jonte Cook's top 3. depending on how it goes at receiver, that may be a big deal. It may not be a big deal. Again, Jonte leaves A&M out of the top 3, but wouldn't surprise me to see him back on campus. So you got to close with some of these guys that are getting near a decision. And Harris Sewell is an offensive lineman out of Odessa Permian. A&M has really recruited him hard, but it's feeling like that one's trending away from them going toward Clemson.
That's today, right?
I believe he's making – is it today or Friday? It may be today. He's getting close to make a decision, but I feel like he's really talked highly of Dabo Swinney for a long, long time. And I think I just think that connection with that coaching staff is, for whatever reason, every kid's different. Every situation's different.
Yeah.
It's not something that A&M did wrong necessarily when they lose out on a kid, and it may be something that another school did right, or just something sparked whenever he went on campus and got to meet with that coaching staff. So that one feels like, if he picks A&M, it's going to have to be something that kind of happened in the last 24 hours to turn that around. We'll check on that again today. But so it's not a ton of your top guys going elsewhere. Like, Cedric Baxter, running back out of Florida and Orlando. That's one that you probably should feel like you need to get some momentum back on. And he came to campus, after visiting Texas, and all those crystal balls start floating in toward Texas. By all accounts, everything we've heard, had a great visit. Jimbo's pretty locked in on that one. So if he does something in a direction that's not A&M, that would be a blow. So you lose a guy like Cedric Baxter, or if TJ Shanahan goes off the board to another school, that'd be a big blow. Chase Basantis, the offensive lineman out of New Jersey, if he goes off the board somewhere else, that would be a big blow. So a lot of your periphery guys have kind of fallen off in other directions, guys that you weren't really pushing for. You've had a couple that you wanted in your class go elsewhere. It's just a perceived momentum, and it's June, so it's not something to panic about. But you do feel like A&M just needs to close out on one of these guys that they've been really in on for a while. Donnie, you're here on the show with us to talk about A&M's most recent commitment, Damien Sanford, a kid that you know extremely well, and just kind of give A&M fans, people that have never seen Damien play, how would you describe his style of play and some of his traits?
Yeah, man, absolutely. The first thing I would say about Damien is just he's a freakish athlete. The first thing you kind of do when you watch his film, the first thing that kind of jumps out on you is just how explosive and how twitchy he is, coming off the edge, and then also how fluid he is when he makes his pass drops, and some of the plays that he makes are just really eye-popping. Really great kid, loves to compete. Just an all-around good people. His family comes from good stock. His mom is wonderful. He's got a little brother that's a dog too, and just going to be a player that Aggies are really going to come to love, and he's going to do great things for Aggie Nation. That's for sure.
What kind of conversations did you have with Damien kind of after he was offered after camp and then leading up to his commitment? Did he have any questions for you about your experience at A&M and kind of your thoughts on him choosing the Aggies?
Yeah, so it was kind of like a long process. A lot of the guys that I work very close with, I always kind of ask them like, "Hey, what do you want to see in a college? Like, what's your top schools? Where would you like to go? Certain things like that, just to kind of get a feel to kind of like help them navigate the recruiting process." And it was back in February when Damien had told me that A&M was one of his like dream schools. And, I was just like, oh, really? Like, wow. And so we were just getting the conversations about, just the Aggie network and, playing for Jimbo Fisher and playing in the SEC and, so many things that A&M can do for you, just not football related, but just life related, life after football, and how, being part of that Aggie network is just a blessing to have something like that. And so those conversations kind of started back in February. And I never try to like persuade all the kids I work with, like go to A&M. But obviously I'm a little biased towards it. But it all worked out. Like I said, that was back in February. Things started to pick up steam, and after he got the offer, I was super excited for the kid, man, because it's just always when a kid wants to go to a certain school and he knows that's his dream school, and that that's the kid's dream school, and when that's able to happen, it's a blessing, man. It's a big opportunity for him. He's excited. I'm excited. And I'm just glad everything got worked out.
All right, so as I always do, I ask you guys to like, comment, subscribe on the bottom, but also get into the story that we had today. Like, tell me a team or two that you expect to take a step back in 2022. Who's out there? Maybe on A&M schedule, maybe not on A&M schedule, that's going to take a step back. Comment below. I want to hear from you. I'll like it afterwards. All right, it's TexAgs Rewind. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Last show of the week.